Hello friends, it's Noor. Today I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful quilted bag following the release of my new PDF pattern. I've gotten so many compliments on the bag since making it. This was the very first final prototype I made. It got these beautiful ruffles on top. The shape reminded me so much of a seashell, so I decided to name it just that, the seashell tote bag. It uses the same fabric on the inside and outside for a clean finish, since the lining will most likely be peeking through at all times. It also has tie strings in the middle to keep your belongings secure. And lastly, it has a Welt zip pocket on the inside to keep some of your valuables safe. It's very roomy, it goes all the way to the bottom of the bag. It comfortably fits my phone, which is quite a large one. If you would like to make the bag yourself, you find the PDF pattern link in the description box. So let's get started. You need fabric for the outer and lining pieces. I tried both cotton and polycotton blend fabrics, and I have a slight preference for polycotton. I find it makes the bag hold the shape better. You need fusible interfacing for the straps and Welt zip pockets. You also need wadding. You can use fusible wadding, it's easier to work with, but I used the non-fusible one. It's what's available for me. And lastly, you need a zipper. The detailed material list will be available in the instructions. The pattern comes in A4 and US letter for home printing. I don't have a home printer, so I sent the large scale A0 version to a print shop. Whichever version you decide to go with, just be sure it's printed at a 100% scale. If you're printing at home, the assembly steps are available in the instructions. Once you've printed and assembled your papers, you can go ahead and cut all the pattern pieces. To quilt the body of the bag, lay a piece of fabric on top of the wadding, then lay over your pattern piece and cut both layers larger than the shape of the pattern to allow for shrinking during quilting. Then take the fabric only and give it a good press to remove any wrinkles. Now use the pattern to draw the quilting design on the right side of the fabric using a heat erasable pen. You can trace guide dots for all the sewing lines on the top and bottom, then use a ruler to connect the dots. Lay your fabric back on top of the wadding, smooth it out completely, and pin both layers all over to prevent shifting during quilting. Switch your machine to 4mm stitch length and quilt over the lines. Once you're done, give it a good press to remove the pen lines. Lastly, use the pattern to trace the final shape and cut it with fabric shears. Make sure that the center quilt line aligns with the top and bottom center notches for perfect symmetry. At this point, use a pen to mark all the notches except for the pocket notches. So you've got the straps notches on the top and the center and side notches on the top and bottom. Now you can go ahead and cut the rest of the pattern pieces that don't require quilting, but first you need to iron your fabric. So cut the fabric larger than the patterns. I like to cut one piece that fits the straps and the pockets. The ruffle pattern F requires to be placed on a fold, so be sure to double your fabric for that one. Take all the pieces to your iron board, give them a good press to remove all the creases. Now you can begin the cutting. Double the fabric to cut the straps since you need 2 straps in total. I like to place a ruler directly on the paper pattern and cut both layers with a rotary cutter. For the pocket, trace around the shape before cutting. The short sides of the pocket have rounded edges. I find this method to be easier and more accurate for pattern pieces with rounded edges. Now that you're done with cutting, take notes of the center pocket notches using scissors. Next, cut the tie strings using the measurements on the pattern piece. The width and height of all the rectangular pieces will be included in the pattern. You can use them to measure directly on the fabric. I cut the ruffles using the same method. For long pattern pieces, I fold the fabric by 2 or 4 before cutting the long edges. I find it gives cleaner cuts. Next, trace and cut the bodice lining piece and mark all the notches except for the straps notches using a pen. So you've got the pocket notches on the top and the center and side notches on the top and bottom. Trace and cut the 2 bottom fabric pieces and wadding and mark the notches on the fabric pieces. Lastly, cut the bias tape piece as well. I couldn't find the clip for this part, but it basically requires the pattern piece to be placed at a 45-degree angle from the grain line. Cut the interface in pieces using a rotary cutter, one for the welt pocket and 2 pieces for the straps. To make the straps, put the strap fabric wrong side up on your iron board, then place the strap interfacing glue side down on top of it, aligning all the edges. Place the fabric scrap right on top of it and press the entire surface until the glue melts and the 2 layers are fused. Now fold the strap in half parallel to the long edge to create a center crease, unfold, then fold both sides again towards the center and press. And lastly, fold it on top of itself to enclose the side raw edges. Take the strap to your sewing machine and sew an edge stitch on the open side using a 4mm stitch length. Sew another line on the opposite side and add 2 rows of stitching 0.5mm away from each edge stitch for a total of 4 rows of stitching. Now find your paper pattern again and place the strap on the final shape guidelines. Trace the short edges shape and trim. Then mark the palm grip notches with a heat erasable pen. Fold the strap along the long edge and clip the palm grip in place. Take the piece to the sewing machine and stitch right on top of the edge stitch, beginning and ending at the notches. Backstitch to prevent the stitches from unraveling. Repeat the same steps on the second strap, but make sure that you mirror the first strap when you reach the palm grip sewing parts. To make the tie strings, take the tie string fabric and place it wrong side up on your iron board. Fold 1 cm on the short edge and press it. Repeat on the other short edge. Now we're going to enclose the raw edges similar to what we did for the straps. So fold the strap in half parallel to the long edge to create a center crease. Unfold, then fold both sides again towards the center and press. And lastly, fold it on top of itself. Using a standard stitch length, edge stitch all around the open edges. Now fold the long strap in half and cut it in two so that you have 2 tie strings. To make the ruffles, take the ruffle fabric piece, fold it in half right sides together parallel to the short edge and pin the 2 layers together. Take it to your sewing machine and sew using a 1 cm seam allowance. Press the seam open, then press the right side of the seam as well. You will end up with a big circle. Now place it on your iron board to fold it so both sides of the ruffles show the right side of the fabric. The area you begin pressing must have the wrong side up. Fold the top edge towards the bottom one, press and secure with a pin. Continue folding and pressing until you are done with the entire circumference of the circle. To create the ruffles, take a long piece of thread about 120 centimeters long or longer. Thread it in a small needle. Avoid using big needles since they can damage the fabric and leave marks. So run and stitch all around the circumference 2 centimeters away from the raw edge. Before gathering the thread, you need to mark 4 evenly spaced notches on the raw edge. So fold the circle in half so the seam is at one end, then mark the fold on the raw edge of the opposite side. This notch is your center front notch. Fold again so that the seam and the center front mark align, then mark the 2 folds on the raw edge to create the side notches. To form the ruffles, pull the thread gently to gather the fabric and tie in knots. I marked where I need to tie the knot prior to sewing the running stitch to make sure I get accurate measurements. You'll find the final ruffle circumference measurements in the pattern piece. Now distribute the gathers evenly to form the ruffles and set them aside. If you like to add a label to your outer body, this is the right time to do so. Mark where you want to place it. I like to place mine 8 centimeters away from the top center notch. I stitch it down using a 3mm stitch length. Don't backstitch for a clean finish. Instead, once you're done sewing, cut the thread to be long and use a needle to pull the top thread to the wrong side and tie a knot with the bobbin thread to secure in place. Now fold the body right sides facing each other so the 2 straight edges line up. Clip in place and sew the straight edge using 1 centimeter seam allowance. Now press the seam open and press the right side of the seam as well. Now we'll attach the ruffles and straps to the body. To attach the ruffles, clip them in place to the right side of the body along the top raw edge with the fold down. Start by matching the center front notches, then match the back seam of the body to the ruffle seam. After that, match the side notches, and lastly, put clips around the remaining sections evenly. Make sure the body's fabric stays smooth and does not form any pleats. Adjust the gathers if needed. To attach the front strap, clip it on top of the ruffles, using the strap notches as guides. Bend the strap so that the shorter long edge is placed on the inside and the long one is on the outside, and the palm grip fold faces the body. Next, clip the raw edge of the tie string right on top the center notch. Repeat on the back side of the bag. This time, the tie string is placed on top of the ruffle seam. Take the bag body to the sewing machine and secure everything in place with a 0.5 cm seam allowance. I like to backstitch on the straps and tie strings to reinforce them. At this point, you can check if your stitching looks good. If it does, remove the running stitch from the ruffles and set the body aside. To prepare the lining, we'll first start by attaching the welt zip pockets. Take the pocket fabric piece and place it wrong side up on the iron board. Then, using the paper pattern, mark the placement of the interfacing. Take the interfacing piece, place it glue side down on the placement you marked, then lay over a scrap of fabric and press until the glue melts and the layers are fused. Next, use the paper pattern again to transfer the welt pocket marking. You can use pins to transfer two corners, then measure and trace the rectangle shape following those two dots. Place the pocket on top of the lining piece, right sides facing, using the pocket notches as guides. Make sure the curves align, pin the layers, then take it to your sewing machine and sew on the rectangle using a 2 mm stitch length. Now cut a slit down the center of the rectangle, stopping 1 cm from each short end, then cut diagonally into each corner as close to the stitching as possible without catching the stitches. Push the pocket through the opening so the pocket fabric is now on the wrong side of the lining. Press the welt pocket opening from the wrong side, making sure the rectangle sits flat and the corners are sharp. Turn the lining body to the right side and press again to get a clean, crisp opening. Now it's time to attach the zipper. I shortened mine since I couldn't find the right size. Place the zipper on the wrong side of the lining, center it behind the welt opening. You can use glue stick or wash-away tape to secure it. Switch to a zip foot and stitch around the welt pocket opening on the right side. Fold the pocket in half so the bottom edge meets the top one and pin each side catching just the two pocket fabric layers. Move away the lining body so you don't accidentally stitch over it. Sew each side using a 1 cm seam allowance. Lastly, stitch together the pocket top with the lining as close to the edge as possible to prevent it from shifting during assembly. Now take the lining piece, fold it right sides facing each other so the two straight edges line up, pin in place and sew using a 1 cm seam allowance. Then press the seam open and press the right side of the seam as well. Now it's time to sew the outer body together with the lining. First, take the body's lining piece and make sure it's wrong side out. Then take the outer body with the right side showing and slide it inside the lining so that both right sides are facing each other. Align the pocket center notch with the ruffles back seam. Position the lining seam so that it sits on one of the side notches and use the rest of the notches for proper alignment. Make sure the ruffles, straps and tie strings are tucked neatly between the quilted body and the lining. Put clips all around the entire opening, catching all layers, and sew around the full circumference using 1 cm seam allowance. Now turn the lining right side out and tuck it in the inside of the bag to reveal all your hard work. This part is always very satisfying. Press the ruffle seam from the outside, then from the inside of the bag. Lastly, sew the line into the bag body around the bottom edge, as close to the edge as possible to keep the layers from shifting when attaching the bottom piece. To construct the bottom of the bag, take one of the fabric pieces, put it wrong side up, then place the wadding on top of it. Clip the layers together, then take the second piece, put it on top of it right side showing, and secure it as well. Take it to your sewing machine and baste as close to the edge as possible. Now it's time to attach the bottom to the body. Turn the body inside out, then clip the body to the bottom piece. Start by matching the center and side notches. Then use shears or snips to clip small notches about 0.5 centimeters into the seam allowance around the curved edge of the body so the fabric can spread and lay flat. Put clips as you go. Sew the bottom using a 1 cm seam allowance. Take this step very slowly to avoid sewing over any puckers or tucks. When you reach one of the rounded corners, sew a few stitches, stop with the needle down, lift the presser foot, adjust the fabric, then lower the foot and continue sewing until you're finished. Once done, turn the bag outer side out to check if your stitching looks neat. If it does, turn it back inside out and put it aside. Now it's time to prepare the bias tape. Take the bias fabric and fold it in half parallel to the long edge, wrong sides together. Then press to create a center crease. Unfold, then fold both raw edges toward the center and press. The last step is to hide the bottom raw edges. To do so, open your bias tape and start on the bottom side of the bag. Fold one end about 1 cm to the wrong side to create a clean finished start, and place it right sides together with the raw edge of the bottom seam allowance. Clip in place as you go. Once you reach the end, overlap the bias tape over the beginning by 3 cm and trim off any excess. So in the first fold line of the bias tape, making sure you don't go past the stitch that attaches the body to the bottom. Now fold the bias tape over the raw edges to the other side to fully enclose the seam allowance. Then edge stitch close to the folded edge all the way around. You will end up with a clean finish both on the inside and outside. That's it, you're done. Turn the bag right side out and maybe give it a final press before you enjoy your new bag. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you decide to make the bag, tag me in your creation. I would love to see your work. See you in the next video.